It still feels surreal that Game Boy and Game Boy Advance games are finally on the Switch. After countless rumours, leaks, speculation, they're actually here. And while the launch library is on the smaller side, we do know of some more games coming to the service in the future. But what about the games we don't know about? What could Nintendo add to this service further down the line? Let's speculate. Now, obviously, this is just for fun, so don't take this super serious or anything. And if I missed any of your favorites, let me know in the comments down below. And make sure to subscribe for plenty of more Nintendo content. Let's get this channel to 2,000 subscribers soon. And on with the video.
Sunrise.
Starting off with the original Game Boy, we have some pretty obvious ones. That being Mario Land 1, Mario Land 3, also known as Wario Land, and Wario Land 2. Now, for some reason they decided to start with the second Mario Land and Wario Land 3, maybe because they're slightly popular, I don't know, but I think it's a given we will get the rest of these games eventually, and I know for a fact that I can't wait to play the original Wario Land again. I'll never forget buying that off some kid in my school for like 20p or something, and now it's going for like £15 on eBay. So 8-year-old Si knew what he was doing. This was a wise investment, and I know for a fact that that kid is absolutely pissed. For some reason in the 90s and early 2000s, Nintendo was obsessed with making pinball games, and I love them. Give me all the pinball games. I've never actually played Kirby's Pinball Land, so I would love to have the opportunity to play that, and I also love Pokemon Pinball. These just seem like no-brainers in my eyes. Mole Mania is another game I have never played, so I won't sit here and pretend to. However, I've heard a lot of good things about it, so I want to give it a try. And it was developed by Shigeru Miyamoto and is supposedly similar to Zelda in some ways. I don't know. One thing to note about me is that I love puzzle games, so Yoshi's Cookie and Pokemon Puzzle League being added to the service would make my day. And you know what else would make my day? This guy, Kid Icarus. This franchise deserves to get revived on Switch. I'm trying so hard to stop myself going on a rant about Kid Icarus here, so just add Kid Icarus of Myths and Monsters. The more of this series on the Switch, the merrier. I love Mario Tennis handheld games, and Mario Tennis on the Game Boy Color has a whole RPG-like story mode. Honestly, I love this game. I wasn't expecting it to have this much to it, and more people deserve to give this game a shot. You already know Donkey Kong had to make an appearance here, and the DK Land Trilogy and DK94 100% deserve to come to this service, as well as Kirby's Dream Land 2. These are some of the Game Boy's most iconic games. I don't need to say anymore. But speaking of iconic, when you hear Game Boy, what game springs to mind first? It could be Tetris, sure, it's the second best selling game on the system, but what about that #1 spot? The series that was birthed on the system. I am of course referring to Pokemon. Pokemon Red, Blue, Yellow, Gold, Silver and Crystal. Yes, I 100% think this is going to happen, and I have a lot of reasons why I think that it will happen, along with the GBA games one day, but that honestly is a whole separate video itself, so make sure to subscribe to the channel to see that video soon. Of course, Pokemon Day is coming up, so it'll be out soon, don't worry about that, because honestly, a reveal could be happening in the next week or so. So yeah, onto the Game Boy Advance, and let's start with some third parties here. My boy Sonic. He had a great run on this system, and Sega is way too lazy and stupid to port over the Sonic Advance Trilogy. For some reason they just hate ports, even though recently they have been getting slightly better. So just bring it to NSO and Sonic Battle along with it, and that will do. When I saw Golden Sun on the future releases, I was over the moon. This is another one of those series that was just unfortunately forgotten about, and hopefully with it being available on Switch soon, it'll boost interest in the series again, so hopefully the second game will get a release on this system too. And I would also love to see F-Zero GP Legend, Fire Emblem The Sacred Stones, and Metroid Zero Mission. All these series have games from the GBA coming to the service eventually, so I honestly just don't see why they wouldn't release these other ones. Now let's quickly zoom through all the Mario games we have on this system, starting with the Mario Advance games that aren't already on the service. Now, although these are just sort of ports / remasters, whatever you want to call them, I still think they have a shot of being on here, seeing as some of them already are. We also have Mario Pinball Land, Mario vs Donkey Kong, another awesome one that I'd love to see on the system, and Mario Tennis Power Tour, another great game. Now, only about a year ago or so, I actually found out that Mario Party Advance was a thing. I seriously had no idea there was a Mario Party game on the Game Boy Advance for some reason, and it still sounds weird saying that. I don't know what the general public opinion on this game is, but I could see it being added at some point. And also DK King of Swing. Now, this is a spin-off Donkey Kong game that is pretty interesting to say the least. I mean, I've never tried it before, but I have heard some mixed opinions on it. Recently, I've gotten into the Metal Slug series and I've been having a blast. And the GBA happens to have a Metal Slug game on it, that being Metal Slug Advanced. I don't know the chances of this becoming a reality, but a man can dream. The same applies for Konoha. This series has made a comeback recently, and it would be great to have more games accessible on the Switch, or even if they just re-release them in a collection like they've done with the Final Fantasy games or the Battle Network games. Wario Land 4 is an amazing game, one of the best GBA has to offer, and having this entire series playable on the Switch would be a dream come true. And oh, the more WarioWare, the merrier, so bring Twisted over too. And similar to WarioWare, we have Rhythm Heaven, a fantastic series, and the first game in this series was released in Japan in 2006, actually under a different name, Rhythm Tengoku. I've never played this entry, but I love the series and would love to see this come to the service, hopefully not as a Japan exclusive. Speaking of Japan exclusives, oh yes, you knew this one was coming, probably the most infamous game on the GBA, Mother 3. Everyone wants this game to finally release outside of Japan and get an official English translation. It's been spoken about for years, and some people have just given up at this point, and I don't blame them, but I could honestly see the Switch being the system where it finally happens. Imagine the hype if this were to actually happen. Imagine how many people would actually get the expansion pack to try this. We have seen Nintendo put a lot of effort into some of these old games releasing on the service, giving them brand new trailers and tutorials like they did with Earthbound and Mario Picross, which is really cool to see, adding online functionality, releasing previously Japan exclusive games, releasing cancelled games. So if we are ever going to get Mother 3 in the West, this definitely feels like the right time to do it. Although that's what we've been saying for years. I don't know at this point, but hey, something we can count on is Kirby, right? They'll release Kirby Nightmare in Dreamland. It's a dope remake. You know a game I've always wanted to try? Zelda 4 Swords and 4 Swords Adventure on the GameCube. But I couldn't as a kid because I had no friends, and well, I can't now because I have no friends. Nah, I'm kidding, but getting 4 Swords Adventure with online functionality would actually be incredible, because these games are very inaccessible in this day and age, and it would be dope to actually try them. Now we all know Game Freak for making the Pokemon games, but every now and then, they actually venture outside the Pokemon franchise and try something new. Sometimes it doesn't go so well, and sometimes it goes great. Drill Dozer is an example of it going great, because this game is incredible, and we probably won't ever see another release in this series with how busy Game Freak are nowadays, pumping out 10 Pokemon games a year, unless they pass it on to another developer. And speaking of Pokemon, there are some great spin-offs on this console that I would love to see as well, starting with another pinball game, Pokemon Pinball Ruby and Sapphire, and this might be a bit of an unlikely one, seeing as the remake is on Switch, but Pokemon Mystery Dungeon Red Rescue Team. The other version is available on the DS, so if they just release this one on its own, I'm not too sure. And lastly, you know I had to end on the mainline Pokemon games. Pokemon Fire Red is my favourite game of all time, and I would be able to die happy if this game released on Switch. We have never seen the GBA Pokemon games be re-released, and it is sad, because in my opinion, they are the best ones. If Pokemon Fire Red and Leaf Green and Ruby Sapphire and Emerald released on this service, it would be so valuable. And just being able to have access to all these games, including Red, Blue and Yellow and Gold, Silver and Crystal with Pokemon Home connectivity, online play, stadium connectivity, would be a dream come true. And if you want to see a video on why I think it will happen and when, make sure to subscribe with notifications on so you don't miss it.
Sunrise.